Hey, this is the Entertainment Advice Channel. What I want to talk about today is a topic of the problem with revenge stories. So, for this video, I'm going to talk about not only the problem with revenge stories when it comes to, um, of course, how they're done, but also a solution to resolving the issue, okay, when it comes to the topic of revenge stories. So, now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the problem with revenge stories, what exactly is a problem with revenge stories? The problem with revenge stories is simply down to the fact that for revenge stories, it simply comes down to, you know, just the way it is done, okay? Because all revenge stories, what I've noticed, aside from, the fact that it's insensitive to people who've actually been victims of negativity, it also mainly the problem with it is that it ignores the main premise of a movie, which is that it has to be unpredictable, okay? And that is the truth of the matter. But revenge stories are extremely predictable because they always go on the same path. So let me explain in full detail what I mean by that, okay? So what I mean by that when it comes to, of course, the topic of the problem with revenge stories is that it is just so predictable. It is so predictable, it's not even funny, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, anyone who's watched a revenge story, okay, whether it could be Western, animation, or movies, or even, of course, Japanese animation, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah, is you will always notice the same exact trend, okay, that you see all the time, which is simply down to the fact that it is so predictable because the character will always, in the end of the day, will always forgive the person who did a transgression to them or the certain thing to them, okay? Which is definitely one of the biggest things in movies that, of course, you know, that you don't want to do because it breaks the rules, okay? Or not even breaks the rules. It's just predictable. It's predictable, I should say, to explain it in further detail, okay? It's too predictable, okay? Because the thing is, when I watch these movies, every single one of them, okay? It's not even the case of in modern movies because everyone nowadays likes to shit on modern movies. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to movies of even the past, I've just noticed it's an extreme cliche that the person who seeks vengeance will always, always, always never kill a person because they realize the person who actually killed a person that maybe they loved or did this really effed up thing to them, for some weird reason, actually had a justifiable reason. Or if not a justifiable reason, it's a case of I don't want to be as bad as you. I don't want to be a piece of shit like you, which is so stupid because it just kind of kills the atmosphere of the movie because it's like I already know exactly what's going to happen, okay? And that is the truth of the matter about revenge movies, why they're so ridiculously tedious, boring, and just straight up even annoying. Because it's just so I already know exactly what's going to happen towards the end, for that matter, okay? And that's exactly the truth of the matter. It's just boring because it's like I already know this motherfucker's not going to kill this person. I know he's just going to say, regardless of the situation, whether the person was justified or not, to kill the person who did all this messed up things, they will always, 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 for that matter, just bail on it because it's a case of, I don't want to be as bad as you, which is just so cliche and just ridiculous, okay? And it's just boring. It's just straight up snooze fest. It's just like the cliche in movies, that's a very big cliche, that you see all the time in movies all the time, that violence is never the answer, or if it's not violence is never the answer, it could be even something as generic as the no or moo ha 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 ha. Um, or something like that, to be quite blunt and honest with you, okay? That's the truth of the matter, to be honest with you. And yes, this is actually funny, at least if this is anything funny about the story. The examples I gave just now, the dialogue examples I gave just now, to be honest with you, the truth of the matter is, it's just like that. It's just such a cliche. It's just so predictable. It's like, I already know exactly what's going to happen, okay? But the truth of the matter is, obviously that kills the quality of the movie, and will make the movie predictable and make it just feel like you're watching the same movie over and over again if you watch enough revenge movies. So that's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make related to that, which I kind of got at a little bit in the beginning, and this is definitely not funny at all, is the fact that revenge movies also don't take into consideration the fact um that they also are doing something that you're not supposed to do, is oversaturate your movies, okay? Because all of them are the same thing, and as a result, which brings me to explaining what the second main point about, it's insensitive to people who are actually victims of abuse and stuff like that, or any type of thing that's made someone seek vengeance, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, and I've gotten this before, I've definitely explained this before in a lot of the stories I have made, okay? To be quite blunt and honest with you, many times, at least for the amount of times I've been talking about things since I started posting videos on YouTube again, is that I just find it insensitive to people who are victims of abuse. Because, like I said, when you actually look at things, aside from the fact that people want to watch movies for entertainment, you have to realize that sometimes people just want to kind of like get things off their head and not just be reminded and told, okay, I'm a bad person. I'm a bad person because I think this way. I'm a bad person. I'm a bad person. I'm a bad person. And it just become really cliche because a lot of people in the world, let's keep it real, dog. Whether we want to admit it or not, people who tend to consume certain forms of media, just like how pretty much popular kids, you would probably say, are the biggest consumers of, maybe, let's just say, music and so on and so forth. Or maybe when it comes to like reality TV shows, maybe you might say casual people, everyday people, average people are the biggest consumers of that. And of course, when it comes to like movies and like animation and stuff like that, okay, because what I'm talking about when it comes to revenge stories can spread across everything from Western animation to Western movies to, of course, Japanese animation slash anime, and of course, Japanese movies, and just any type of media that's made throughout the world, but specifically from the West and Japan for that matter. Okay. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to the topic of, of course, that particular form of media that a lot of people tend to watch. A lot of those people who tend to watch that stuff are people, let's be honest, who tend to be more likely to be bullied, okay? And when you actually have had the experience of bullying, especially specifically if the bully knows what they're doing, why the fuck, okay? And not even for bullying, just anyone who's been a victim of extremely a bad situation, had to really have a really crappy experience with someone. Why the fuck, okay, the fuck do I want to spend my time sitting there watching a movie that just tries to train me to think that my way of thinking is bad? And not even just that, you know, it's just kind of just really just stupid because I want to kind of not think about reality. Now that I've gotten that point done, of course, because I've said this for quite a few videos already, now, of course, the question, of course, comes up is, what can we do to stop this? Well, the simple answer to the question is that when it comes to solution is problem. The best solution or problem when it comes to, of course, this particular situation is that the best solution, if there is a solution, and not just a case of if there's a solution, there is a solution, more like, is simply down to the fact that we need to just start, you know, making sure that when we make movies, we don't have movies that actually have main characters who seek vengeance, okay? Because it just reach a point now where it's become so freaking cliche. And of course, the point of a movie is to have a moral to it, anyway. And it just attracts a lot of stupid people who talk a lot of shit and, oh God, and bitter people who will say vengeance is never the answer, to put it bluntly in honesty. So, the truth of the matter is, for that very reason, why the hell don't we just simply not talk about it? That's the best way to do it. If you do a revenge story, it should only cover, let's be honest, of course, maybe a side character. He might be a main character, but not the main character. He's one of the main characters, but not the main character. The story, of course, is narrating the story for. Okay, that's the most we can do. But when it comes to main characters, his simply his motive should not be revenge. Because it's reached a point now where revenge stories are just so cliche, and you don't want to be called out as being some sort of person that you're not, and attract that audience who say, oh, well, why do you always have to seek vengeance? You're such a hateful person, and all those type of people. So as a result, why don't we just simply not talk about it? Besides, at the end of the day, the point of a movie anyway is to, if you're watching a movie anyways, to be entertained by violence. So to pretty much try to bring up something that's meant to guilt trip people about being violent just kind of defeats the purpose. Because at the end of the day, it's fiction. So why don't we just watch the movie for entertainment and sit down and enjoy it? And instead of complaining about, oh, if I were to do this in real life, if I seek vengeance, it makes me a bad person, which is a way of thinking that's inflicted through these entertainment type stories. So that's the truth of the matter. So anyway, this is all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video, and just remember, if you like this video, thumbs this video up and hit the subscribe button, and that's all I have to say. So I'm out. Bye.